Well, I'll be damned. Yowie wowie. The WWE just released the Fiend Bray Wyatt. This is crazy. Let this sink in. The WWE has released 2 former Universal Champions in the last 6 weeks. This is mind-blowing. This is unprecedented. What is going on? We need to talk about this. This is mental. There's talk that Bray Wyatt may potentially ask for his release. I could possibly see that happening because I don't see why the WWE would just release him on their own volition. That just does not make sense. They've invested so much into him over time. He is one of Vince's favorites. The fact that he had so much creative freedom, he's been given so much airtime, top spots, backs that up. He has had some issues with booking and things of that sort, but generally he's been well positioned within the WWE. He was part of that fortunate 4. When you think about from 2012 to 2014, in that period you had the Shield debut and then you had the Wyatt family. And ever since then, the WWE roster and just the ecosystem surrounding it has been anchored around those 2 factions. It's essentially been, until Dean Ambrose left and became, John Moxley or whatever. It's just the top guys have essentially been, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose had his time in the mid-2000s, and Bray Wyatt. When you think of the newer generation, those are the guys, those are the top dogs. And one of them is now gone. Shit. What is WWE doing? Because I'm trying to figure out the reason behind this. Where is the rhyme or reason here? You're letting go of all of these huge names and allowing your competition to potentially sweep them up. And we have to bear in mind, AEW ain't TNA. AEW compared to Monday Night Raw and even SmackDown is not too far behind them in terms of the total viewership, is getting close to them in relation to the 18 to 49 demographic, is selling out much bigger stadiums than TNA. Much bigger stadiums than TNA could ever dream of. If TNA was lucky, they might do 2,000 or 3,000 people at the Orlando Center. AEW is doing 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people on a weekly basis. They've sold out. They're close to selling out the Arthur Ashe Stadium in September. They fucking put the tickets on release for Rampage later on this month, yesterday, and they've already sold 12,000. They've had the highest pay-per-view buy rates for a non-WWE promotion since the year 2000. They have a very high conversion rate. You think about it. On average, 800,000 to 1 million people tune in to watch the show on a weekly basis, and they're getting 100 to 150,000 people buying those pay-per-views, including me. AEW ain't TNA. This is the strongest competition that the WWE has seen since WCW. And as time wears on, they might become stronger than WCW. You need to remember, in terms of when WCW started to kind of overtake the WWE in, late 1996, once Hogan turned heel and joined the NWO, WCW was around a few years before then. It must have been 5 or 6 years? And AEW, in terms of AEW Dynamite, the weekly TV show, it hasn't even been around for 2 freaking years. I don't know what the WWE is doing. Because AEW is on their heels and they're releasing such a top talent. If AEW could get Bryan, Punk, and Bray, and possibly Braun, They could, like, I think if they had all of those guys and they book it right, they're beating Raw on the ratings. Like, it's either they're going to beat Raw on a head-to-head, or they're going to start reaching levels that Raw has reached in the past. So maybe they won't beat Raw, but maybe by the time like September or October comes along, they start hitting the 1.4s and the 1.5s, which we know Raw can fall down to. And it just shows that, they're essentially hanging around at the same level. This is crazy. This is mad. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe part of this could be down to the idea that, yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe I think that there may be something in there where the WWE sees AEW as a kind of incubator of sorts. It may be better for them to release these superstars who are kind of having difficulty finding their way in the WWE kind of like system, have them go to AEW under like a different system and a different way of doing things, let them get their exposure, let them experiment with their characters and do those things. And then once they get really over on AEW and, really kind of come into their own, I can see WWE snapping them up again. Because, yeah, like, as much as AEW can compete in terms of like straight up money, the money that they will have available to throw at superstars, it's not on the same level as the WWE. And yes, I know you can say, there's, Papa S, there's Shadid Khan, and he's richer than Vince McMahon, but it's not the same. You're talking about like, he can reach into his account and he can leverage money, borrow it to invest into AEW. Whereas AEW as an actual entity in itself is not making as much money as the WWE. Clearly, it's very far behind that. Yep. Whereas the WWE is, on a yearly basis, bringing nearly $1 billion in revenue. So as an actual entity in a business, the WWE has more money to work with that the AEW can't compete with. So maybe they're like releasing these superstars and going, let them go to Japan. Let them even go to AEW. And then they kind of like, test their mettle there, experiment with things, and then get over that way and come back. Maybe they're, using AEW as an incubator. I think it could potentially be that. Because I'm trying to figure out why else they would do these things. AEW is competition, but at the same time, WWE is not really competing with them yet. They haven't pulled out all the stops. And if they need to, they can, again, just sign a lot of those guys back. They can buy them off. So very interesting. Watch this space.